Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede at its new time today at 8:30 a.m. on 4. Now, from CBS 4 News, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Good morning. I'm Jim DeFede, and welcome to Facing South Florida. On Wednesday, Joe Biden became the 46th president of the United States, and Kamala Harris, the first woman to be vice president. It was an historic day set against a backdrop of a pandemic that has claimed more than 400,000 lives and an economy in ruins with 11 million Americans out of work. Nevertheless, Biden understands his greatest challenge will be trying to unite a deeply divided nation.
We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. For without unity, there is no peace, only bitterness and fury. No progress, only exhausting outrage. No nation, only a state of chaos. This is our historic moment of crisis and challenge, and unity is the path forward.
A recent survey by Georgetown University's Institute of Politics and Public Service found that 82% of Americans believe racial, political, and class divisions are getting worse. But the survey found some measure of optimism. 56% believe Biden will be at least somewhat successful restoring civility, and 63% believe Biden and Congress will be at least somewhat successful working together. On the eve of the inauguration, I spoke to Mo Elleithee, executive director of that Georgetown Institute on Politics.
Now, look, there's still some red flags in this poll, and it still shows how polarized we are. Republican voters were far less willing to believe that the new president would be able to create a sense of unity, but Democrats and independents overwhelmingly did, and some Republicans. So there are signs here that people want more civility, they want less polarization in our politics, and they are optimistic that it will get better. But there are still some warning signs that we need to heed.
But when you talk about those red flags, 82% agree racial and political and class divisions are getting worse. So that's not optimistic.
No, it's not. As I said, people believe that right now it's as bad as it's ever been, and understandably so. 4 years of a hyper-polarized political environment, an increasingly polarized news environment. They saw just in the past 6-7 months, violence in the streets from last summer and violence at the Capitol from a couple of weeks ago. People believe that we are as polarized as we've ever been. But when you ask them, where do we think we will be a year from now? They're optimistic. Maybe it's hopeful, right? But they believe that it will get better. And I think that's something that's a good starting point for us.
One of the things that I found fascinating, because it sort of shows part of the dichotomy that people can have two contrary thoughts in their head at the same time, were answers to this question. Compromise and common ground should be the goal for political leaders. 88% agree with that. But then when you ask the question, I'm tired of leaders compromising my values and ideals, I want leaders who will stand up to the other side, 87% believe in that. So 88% believe in compromise, but 87% don't want their leaders to compromise on certain things. Is it that we only want compromise from the other side?
I think this is the biggest dichotomy that we found, and it's a tough line to walk. It's as if people are saying, I absolutely want common ground. Walk over to where I'm standing, then we'll be on common ground. If you're a political leader, that's a tightrope to walk, because what's the incentive structure for you? Is it to compromise, or is it to stand your ground? And this is where the voters' responsibility comes in. We all easily blame our political leaders for the lack of civility in our politics. It's easy to blame the news media. It's easy to blame social media. It's easy to blame special interests. But when we are giving this mixed message, I want compromise, but I want you to stand up and fight the other side, we've got to be clear with our leaders because they do follow our lead.
While most of the attention surrounding Biden's inaugural address has been on his call for unity, there was another theme that ran throughout the speech: the need for return to truth, with Biden demanding we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured. And he added this.
Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies.
Among the lies is the belief still among far too many Americans that Biden was not legitimately elected, that the election was stolen. Earlier in the week, Republican leader Mitch McConnell placed the blame for the Capitol insurrection squarely on those lies and President Trump.
The mob was fed lies. They were provoked by the president and other powerful people.
So how does the country move forward if we can't sort fact from fiction, where lies can incite a mob or individually leave us in a constant state of anger and resentment? Biden sought to address this as well on Wednesday.
Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
As we all know, however, words don't always translate into results. Following the inauguration, I spoke to Steve Schale, the CEO of Unite the Country, a group formed in 2019 to support Biden's run for president. Schale led a draft Biden movement in 2016 and ran Barack Obama's campaigns in Florida in 2008 and 2012. A lot of presidents come into office talking about wanting to unite. I remember Obama in 2008 in his inaugural addresses talking about, again, the idea of bringing the country together, you know, going back from even his old convention speech, we're not red states or blue states, we're the United States. So this type of rhetoric has been used before. What makes us think that it's going to be any different with Joe Biden, that it moves beyond rhetoric?
I think the thing with the vice president is if you look at his career, I mean, even going back to things he said in the 70s when he ran for office the very first time, I mean, this idea that we can bring people together and solve problems is ingrained in his DNA. I mean, you know, frankly, a lot of the issues he got criticized for when he was running for president were issues that he worked with Republicans to try to find solutions to. And so, you know, again, and I don't think, I mean, he's not Pollyannish. This is a guy who's 78 years old, who's been in public life for more than 50 years. I mean, he understands how hard this is going to be. He obviously lived through the Obama-Biden years. But again, I think at his core, he is the kind of person who will bring people together. He's going to put people around the table and he's going to find ways to solve problems. Is he going to get everything he wants? No. Is everything going to be perfect? No. But I think he's just wired from a place of again, trying to find solutions to problems. And I think honestly, his age is an advantage too. He's very comfortable with who he is at this point in his life. And so he has no more ambition. He is president. So I think he's also in a place where for him, the stakes are really high. And I think he understands, again, how to drive conversation.
I guess I'm wondering almost, is it too much for any individual to accomplish given the way the media is currently set up? I mean, it was a theme that he came back to, in addition to talking about unity. The theme that I caught in his inaugural address was coming back time and time again to truth versus lies, and how lies are often said for power and profit. You know, his pledge that he will always be honest and level with the American people. You know, those types of things that, in a split screen world where, you can jump back and forth between CNN and Fox News and see CNN covering this administration one way and Fox News already being as cynical and as vicious as anything I've ever seen them. So if we're all in our own individual silos as citizens, How do you break through that? That's not something, even under Obama, I don't think it was as bad as it is now.
I think in some ways the fact that Joe Biden's an analog guy in a digital world is probably not a bad thing because he doesn't get caught up in it. I mean, I think he, again, he's not, I remember a voter in Michigan in a focus group we did back in April said to us, like, basically, if Joe Biden never promises to never tweet, I'll vote for him. And so, I mean, I do think that there is a section of the American population which makes up the middle, and I don't mean middle by like moderate ideologically, but people who don't live in these silos, who were desperate for a drama-free president, who were desperate for some normalcy. And again, I think that, the fact that Biden does not live in the 24-hour media cycle or the 6-second soundbite, God knows he's never been good at that, I think is a bit of an advantage because he's not sort of bogged down by trying to play inside of that space. And, again, I don't think he's not a Pollyannish guy. I mean, he understands the challenges we're facing, but he does believe, because it's been who he's been his whole career, that if you make the effort and create the space and you treat people in good faith, that you can find solutions. And so I think that's the way he's going to approach it. And again, I think, as he said in his inaugural speech, it's not a function of like we're always going to agree on everything. It's the idea that your opponent isn't like your death enemy. And again, I mean, if you look back at the Obama years, all due respect to my former boss, who I respect immensely, a lot of the big things that got done because Joe Biden went down and sat down with Mitch McConnell and John Boehner or Cantor and figured out how to get it done. And I think you'll see more of that going forward.
According to Schale, the key for Biden will be how he handles the pandemic. It's a lot easier to unite the country if you are actually fixing its biggest problems. Up next, we talk about the prospects for immigration reform when we come back.